You are listening to KSG Podcast. This is a short, crisp, concise, exam-oriented, edited editorial for civil services aspirants. In this podcast, we are going to talk about the implications of releasing strategic oil. Source is Girish Chandra Prasad's article for Mint. India on 23rd of November 2021 announced that it will release 5 million barrels of crude oil from its strategic petroleum reserves in consultation with other big global oil consumers such as the US, China, Japan and the Republic of Korea. India is heavily reliant on oil imports. In financial year 2021, oil imports accounted for more than 85% of the total requirement. India has been pushing for more reasonable pricing of oil by producer nations and has been protesting against the supply manipulation by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies known as OPEC Plus, aimed at propping up prices. High oil prices impact raw material costs for businesses and affect competitiveness as some petrochemicals refined from crude oil are the basic building blocks in a host of industries. Besides, higher prices forced the government to cut taxes on petrol and diesel. Now, will it lead to a decline in oil price? For the release of oil from strategic reserves to have a meaningful impact, all participating nations should announce the extent of the release and take coordinated action. The 50 million barrels that the US would release from its reserves is over the next several months. Indian authorities are awaiting concrete plans from other nations. Japan too has confirmed that it will release a few 100,000 kiloliters of oil from its national reserve, but the timing is yet to be decided. The move sends a clear signal to producing nations about big buyers coming together, a person privy to discussions in the government said. Now, what is India doing to tame oil prices? Ethanol blending is critical to reducing dependence on oil. The target is to achieve 20% ethanol blending of petrol by 2025. Also, a strong policy backing is given to facilitate transition from fossil fuel-based transportation to electric mobility. State-owned oil refiners are always on the lookout for contracts with new suppliers. Policymakers are also eyeing hydrogen as a fuel. Now, is India on a collision course with OPEC? India's efforts to influence oil pricing with its status of a bulk buyer has seen little result till now because of cartelization. It has given clear signals of diversifying sources of crude oil, raising purchases from the US, and strongly backing transition to electric mobility. Supplies from Middle East nations have fallen in financial year 2021 to 63.5% of India's total imports from 69% in financial year 2020 because of production cuts by OPEC+. But India does not expect the release of oil to affect diplomatic ties with the Middle East. So how does cheap energy help the government? The government led by the Prime Minister has benefited from low oil prices in the past, giving it the opportunity to raise taxes and find resources for various welfare schemes. The Modi government has also phased out most of the petroleum subsidies, cleaning up the government balance sheet, making oil prices pass through to consumers. High oil prices force the government to cut taxes, making it harder for it to balance budgets. Higher energy costs are also seen by experts as a deterrent to consumption. That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. To join KSG India courses and to crack the ICE exam, visit ksgindia.com. You can also get a PDF of this podcast on ksgindia.com.